Hello, Sir Afifi. My name is Chang Yong Wei, and my matrix number is 277920. I will begin with explaining about what a populist leader is. Firstly, they are dividers, not uniters. Populists control by the wishes of the people and divide society into two groups, which are homogeneous and aggressive groups, referring to the innocent individuals solely on a single side and the corrupt elite on another. The truth that populists consider their task as foully mentioned moral give rise to this idea of legitimacy, which is the distinction between an elite and a citizen is not based on wealth or status. This is determined by your own values.
Hi, Sir Afifi and everyone. My name is Chong Yin Yin and my matching number is 277789. Now, I will be continue to talk about what a populist leader is. A populist leader exhibits a much broader range of leadership style than the strongman or strongwoman. This is because populist leadership has frequently been associated with charismatic leadership and the concept of a strongman or strongwoman guiding the public while retaining the ability to impose top-down decisions. However, populists exhibit a much broader range of leadership style than the strongman or strongwoman. Populist leaders must be inventive in distinguishing themselves from the established elite they oppose, which they accomplish by emphasizing their outsider status in political life via gender, racial, and professional characteristics.
Hi, Sir Afifi, I'm Chajachi, and now I would like to explain what a populist leader is. Populism is a kind of constitutional disease. It's a type of groupthink in which a leader builds a direct relationship with the people, and as a result of the relationship is able to govern outside the state's established constitutional process. It claimed that one of the functions of political parties is to serve as a conduit between political elites and the general public, a conduit through which a general public can exert control over the elite through party membership. As a result, populist leaders pose a threat to the proper functioning of political parties, and the proper functioning of political parties poses a threat to populism.
Good day, Sir Afifi and everyone. My name is Chai Busan. Matrix number is 277750. The last explanation for populist leader is populist leaders are anti-elite, anti-politic, and anti-intellectual, who full of negativity. This is because populist leaders believe that the relationship between the elite and the people is one of the rival. The elite are classified as corrupt group who include political bodies, economists, culture elite, media elite, and academic elite, while the populists play the role of the people. Therefore, populist leaders are always supported by a small group to come up with their own idea to challenge the elite groups.
The example of populist leaders in Southeast Asia that chosen by us are Thaksin Shinawatra and Joko Widodo. Thaksin Shinawatra was born in Chiang Mai, Thailand on July 26, 1949, an ex-cook who became a telecoms billionaire and later a populist leader. He became Thailand's first democratically elected prime minister in 2001, serving a 4-year term and re-elected with a huge majority in 2005. He then founded the Shin Corporation after starting a tiny computer business. On 2001, he guided his newly formed Thai Party to a resounding victory in national elections, campaigning on a populist platform and was appointed as prime minister. He saw his telecoms firm in 2006, prompting widespread demonstrations over the tax-free deal. Hence, he dissolved parliament and declared an elections. However, the voting results were cancelled because his opponents boycotted it. He was overthrown in September 2016. Although he was being exiled, still remains as one of Thailand's greatest powerful and visible figures.
Thaksin Shinawatra was Thailand's first full-term prime minister, and his reign is widely regarded as one of the most memorable in the country's modern history. Educational reforms and introducing universal healthcare were two of Thaksin's most effective actions and policies as leader. Thaksin established the Student Loan Fund and the Income Contingent Loan schemes to help low-income students attend university. He created the Income Contingent Loan Program to help students who couldn't afford college get a loan to help them finish their studies. He created this program because Thai Bank had never offered educational loan. The income contingent loan required participants to begin repaying when their monthly salary reached 16,000 baht plus inflation-adjusted interest. The student loan fund had a family income cap, but interest was 1% after graduation. Next, in 2002, Thaksin introduced two significant healthcare policies to enhance the public's health, which are subsidized universal healthcare and low-cost universal access to HIV treatment. The public praised Thaksin's 30 baht per visit universal healthcare initiative, but physicians and bureaucrats criticized it. Before the program, many people lacked health insurance and had restricted access to healthcare. The initiative increased healthcare access from 76% to 96%.
Controversies related to Thaksin Shinawatra. During Thaksin's time as Prime Minister and head of government, he launched a war on drugs campaign against the drug. Whenever villagers identified those drug dealers, they would shoot up confirmation. In this incident, at least 2,800 drug dealers were killed within a year. However, this anti-drug action has drawn the attention of the United Nations Human Rights Committee, which consider it a human rights violation. There is no denying that the decision that made by Thaksin did increase the security in Thailand. Another controversy of Thaksin was he abused his power to suppress media coverage. According to the Thai journalist executive director revealed that before Thaksin came to the power, Thailand media was considered one of the freedom media country. However, when Thaksin became the prime minister, he has used various tactics such as advertising and stock acquisition to control the media coverage. Thirdly, he has been charged with corruption due to the reason that he abused his power as a prime minister to help his wife Bojaman to purchase a 5.3 hectare land at a lower price compared to its estimated value from a state financial institution. Last but not least, the controversies related to Thaksin was he has made a disappointment to the Thai people after he sold 49.6% or $1.9 billion to the Singaporean company named Temasek. In this chain cooperation business was included the largest telecom in Thailand, mobile communication business and Thai satellite communication. Although the deal was legal after investigated by the Thai Security and Exchange Commission (SEC), but it was a disappointment to the Thai people as they feel that the local products are now in the foreign company's hand. Eventually, Thaksin was exiled abroad by the Majesty of Thai and about $1.4 billion of his assets has been frozen by the Thai Supreme Court.
Next example of populist leaders in Southeast Asia is Joko Widodo. Indonesia's current president Joko Widodo, or Jokowi as he is more commonly called, he was re-elected as president in April 2019 with 55.5% of the vote. Suragata, a city in central Java, Indonesia, is where Jokowi was born on June 21, 1961. He originates from a poor family with a humble Javanese heritage. He had to begin working at teenage age to help his family and finance his education fees. Eventually, he earned a degree in forestry. Sooner, he got into politics and was appointed to the role of Jakarta governor. He became very beloved in the urban and rural areas, and he progressed up the ranks, ultimately becoming the president. The people of Indonesia hold him in high regard because he is seen as a trustworthy and principled leader who recognizes the difficulties of ordinary people. Jokowi is the first ever Indonesian president who is not from the military or political background, attracting the global interest with his populist approach of campaigning and anti-corruption policy.
Hi, Sir Afifi. I'm Chachashi and my matrix number is 278004. And now I would like to talk about action and policy of Joko Widodo. Jokowi's election platform and his previous policy as mayor of Solo and governor of Jakarta suggest that he has a specific interest in improving the living standards of the poorest and raising people out of poverty. These objectives require policy on growth and often short-run transfer as well as changes to social policy and entitlements. They can also require greater medium-term investment in education and healthcare. For example, to redistribute the benefits of economic growth and create opportunities. The question of which part of Indonesian society has been benefited most from economic growth and trend in inequality during democratization was raised in mid-2014. During the presidential campaign, not only because of Jokowi was known for enacting specific social policy as mayor and governor, but also because of his humble background. During the campaign, he came to be viewed as a pro-poor figure. In the development literature, questions about the distribution of economic growth are becoming increasingly important. They are specifically related to mathematical identity, which states that higher or rising income inequality is associated with poorer poverty reduction rates at any given poverty line. Despite the fact that there are various methodological challenges, a growing consensus is that while inequality may boost growth at low level of average income, rising or high inequality can stifle growth in the middle level. For this reason, governments in middle-income countries like Indonesia should be concerned about rapid and significant increases in inequality at the very least, because of the possible influence on future growth and poverty reduction rates. The endeavor to increase human capital and as a result raise the future wage of individual at the bottom of the distribution is one crucial mechanism for reducing inequality. In the medium term, creating jobs and implementing direct transfer programs as part of the social policy and welfare system will likely reduce inequality. Jokowi has directed both the Agriculture and Spatial Planning Minister and the Environment and Forestry Minister to speed up the process of dispersing land to people through the formalization of land ownership as part of his commitment to reduce poverty. This is because Jokowi believes it is necessary to assist people, particularly farmers, in making better use of their land. Jokowi also requested his ministers to look into the relationship between economic growth and factors like unemployment, economic disparity, and people's earning. In short, economic growth and inequality reduction will be President Jokowi's top priority, as they were throughout his first term. During his first term, infrastructure was the top policy priority, and it will remain so for the next 5 years. Jokowi has also declared that human capital development will be a priority in his second term, indicating that he recognized that Indonesia's workforce is insufficient and that the country is failing to capture investment pouring to neighboring Southeast Asia countries.
Next is the controversy related to the Indonesian leader Joko Widodo. According to the survey on Joko Widodo of public trust in his leadership by Indonesia's largest media group, named reputable publication Kompas, people who support Jokowi had decreased in his second term as Prime Minister compared to his first term, which from more than 70% to less than 40%. The loss of trust in Jokowi from most of the Indonesians is due to the way on how he is implementing the economy policies and the decision he made during the COVID-19 pandemic. Next, let us talk about the implementing omnibus law on job creation. In the year 2020, when the COVID-19 pandemic was on the rise, the Indonesian Parliament passed the omnibus law on job creation to replace at least 79 laws and 1,224 articles, which caused people from all walks of life to demonstrate on the street. Jokowi mentioned that the new economy policy would speed up Indonesian economy reform by reducing the bureaucracy system, reducing investment restriction to foreign companies, and attract more foreign company to Indonesia. However, people especially from the working class argue that the new policy would eliminate the labor benefits, such as the abolition of compulsory paid maternity leave and the removal of increased overtime restrictions to attract the foreign investment. This would make it easier for the companies to fire workers, reduce unemployment compensation, and increase the number of short-term job contracts on the market. On the other hand, Jokowi has lost to protect the people from the COVID-19 pandemic. This is because Jokowi decided to recover the country's economic activities while people are not fully vaccinated. The recovery economy plan included allowing workers back to the office physically, students back to school, reopening shopping malls and stores, entertainment sectors based on the health situation, and so on. However, according to the chief economist of Bank Central Asia (BCA), David Sewell, he considered that an early reopening of economic activities may lead to the second wave of infection, yet it may also cause panic amongst people. To conclude, the reformation on job creation and the laws to protect people from suffering COVID-19 cases are the controversies related to Jokowi.
Following is about scholars' view on populist leaders and populism. According to Nicholas Babel on his journal, Populist Leaders and Political Parties 2019, mentioned that populist leaders are known for speaking directly to the public and employing language which appeals to a wide range of individuals. They frequently use strong emotional words with the people and are uninterested in rational reasoning. Well, populism as groupthink. Populism is a term which refers to a negative aspect of governance instead of a positive aspect. Populism is a critique of these outcomes and charges that the appropriate institutions of constitutional government has been disrupted.
According to Rose and Hart, populist leaders often have strong characteristics to influence people and control the political organization behind them. This is because they are against the majority to present their own ideas. Apart from that, based on their explanation on populism, populism is a political system which reflects a direct government by a personalities of a leader with a large number of unorganized supporters. For example, the leader that we mentioned earlier, Thaksin Shinawatra, was supported by a large number of rural and northern supporters due to his policy of anti-military and the economic policy to help the poor.
On the other hand, according to scholar Dutch Mulder and Rovila Kawasel, populist leader is influential or powerful leaders who position themselves as the voice of the people through their action and speech. Populist rhetoric allowed them to claim a direct relationship with the people. In many cases, they claim to be personification of the people, presenting themselves as the vox populi or voice of the people. Meanwhile, populism is defined as a thin-centered ideology that believes that society will eventually be divided into two homogeneous and antagonistic camps, the pure people and the corrupt elite, that politics should be an expression of the people's general will.
According to Pippa Norrish, populist authoritarian politicians that appeal to nationalism and tradition while preaching enmity toward outsiders and elites have gained increasing popularity across Europe and the Americas, winning parliamentary seats and ministerial positions and acquiring government control. Populism is the first and foremost a type of rhetoric and is a matter of political communication that treats populism as a language, rather than being viewed as a separate kind of leadership or even a family of political parties. Populism is viewed as a vocabulary about governance that can be used by players across the ideological spectrum. Populism emphasizes the importance of societal tolerance for multiculturalism and social diversity, governance through liberal democratic institutions, the rule of checks and balance on executive power, and respect for minority rights as a counterbalance to the people's majority voice in democratic country. In non-democratic country, however, supporters of elitism who think that power should be consolidated in the hand of a single leader, a leadership elite, or a dominating party may fight populism.